Hi guys, I'm back. So another quick video, so I'm not going to put everything in the front because whenever I feel something's urgent, I won't do that. But all the ways to support me are down below if you choose to do so. So um I want to say something really clearly before I get into anything further. Like, I don't work like most psychic mediums. My gift comes in layers and sequences, impressions that don't always show up in a neat little order. I receive timelines that fold in on themselves. I see through eyes that aren't mine. And sometimes I'm in the future, sometimes I'm in the collapse of now. And that's why I've been updating, because the pressure is building and the energy is shifting. And that is why I keep posting videos, because I'm trying to give you new impressions or explain why I've gotten what I've gotten. Um, and truthfully, I'm still learning what it all means. Like, I'm still learning how I work, even 12 years later. I'm still learning. And those of you that have followed knows that if I usually get something, it's usually for a reason. But what I do know is that I listen, I document, I cross-check, and I don't speak unless spirit says now. And that goes with any case at any time. I've been sitting in this energy for days, and honestly, it's taken a toll on me. This wasn't just another reading. This was a full body, full spirit experience. The kind where you don't just see the outcome, you feel it coming. And you're in the body, you're out of the body, you're in his eyes, you're out of his eyes. I haven't been able to rest. Spirit's been pressing me, showing me visions over and over, repeating oftentimes, and I've been trying to make sense of them while staying grounded. And now, with the latest developments, I believe we're seeing exactly what Spirit was preparing me and all of us for. Now, it's been stated that Travis Decker has been spotted by a lake, etc. Now, I want you guys to pay attention to something. They went the southeast direction, 8 to 10 miles. That is exactly what Spirit was saying. 8 to 10 miles southeast direction. That is where they started catching the trail. When I said yesterday in my video, I felt like they were close, because they were close. They were closest they've ever been. Um, so I was feeling that. So this was my first time tracking somebody actively running, and it wasn't easy. There were moments I doubted, moments I looped, but I followed the energy the whole way. And now that things are lining up, I can say this. I may not be a trained tracker, but Spirit doesn't need me to be. I just needed to listen. I never claimed to know everything, but I've been transparent from the start about what I felt, what I saw, what I couldn't yet name. And that's how I was back and forth. Is he alive? Is he not? Is he alive? Is he not? Suicide by cop, other direction. And I'll explain that in a minute. And I'm standing here in this moment to mark it, that what I've been receiving is now unfolding. Sometimes we're receiving future impressions, present energy, and at the same time. Vision, and that's where it can kind of get tricky. So visions don't always come in linear timeline. They overlap, they blend, they echo. It's not always clear in that moment what's literal and what's symbolic. That's why I often say we don't always know until it plays out. This is why psychic impression shouldn't be judged too quickly, because we're working with symbolic language, energy patterns, and timelines that don't always show themselves clearly until reality catches up. So, again, what's been right? The 8 to 10 southeast distance was correct. Okay, the landscape up the river or creek, in my mind, flowing water, correct. Him hiking with a backpack, correct. I was literally tracking him. Then again, I feel like he veered off and went into the mountains. I'm going to get into this in 1 second. I kept seeing an elevated landscape, a trail up high, repeating. As I said, I didn't know if this was where he was or what he was seeing. It would repeat multiple times a day. Maybe I was seeing where he was perched, because don't you think he all should have been further? Maybe his energy did stop, and that's why I said I don't understand why his energy stopped. It felt like a death, or how I perceived it with the repeating landscape. It could be because something in him already died. He's close to death due to dehydration, maybe a dog bite, losing blood, things like that. His will, his direction, his grip. And sometimes when spirit shows you that kind of stillness, it doesn't matter if the body's breathing, it's already over. And when I said a hiker was going to come across him, again, another hit, I really thought it was going to be a body, and I stated that. That's how it felt to me at the time. But as this is how we can misperceive information. Spirit kept showing me a hiker walking across him. Maybe that was the only way they could show me. I don't know. But I've been asking myself why I felt so final, but now I understand. This is why. I said I wasn't sure, but Spirit wasn't showing me a man on the move. They were showing me the energy of exposure the moment he could no longer hide. If this is him, no one's 100% sure. But if it is, it kind of makes more sense now the more that I've gone back into my stuff. Again, I'm also wondering if he was lying in wait to recoup and possibly for law enforcement to catch up. This was my feelings early on with the suicide by cop I heard. And I told you, I kept hearing suicide by cop. That suicide energy carries the same similar death markers, and it's also a free will path. At this point, it seems like one or another. But I keep getting that last stand energy too. So that's why I'm conflicted back and forth. At the time, like I said, the energy felt stopped. And I said I wasn't sure if he committed suicide or not. It could mean, I guess, holding, waiting, lurking. I'm learning as you guys because I've never felt the energy move and then stop like that and then just continue to see a landscape over and over and over. Didn't really know how to read that. And it was like back and forth. Is his energy there? Is his energy not? Depending on what kind of soul window he's in, like if he's not doing well, if he's already made the decision, etc. So again, now I'm thinking that Spirit was showing me the pause, the hiding or waiting or preparing for final moment. This is why psychic work is so layered. You don't always get a timestamp, you get an imprint. And that's what I felt was an emotion. It was stillness. It was Spirit saying he's about to be seen and it will be the end. The energy was lingering, not gone, but stalled, like someone was waiting for them to come to them. And that can feel as the same as death energetically because it's kind of a limbo. That's why sometimes it's hard to exactly know which outcome we're seeing until it manifests. And that's why I told you guys, I don't know. He could have not. I fought with this back and forth for days because it would flip-flop on me. But both outcomes feel energetically loud. When that happens, it's because the choice is still unfolding in real time. That's why the energy keeps circling this last stand moment, suicide by cop, that I told you I've heard Spirit say very clearly. We don't always get a clear future. Sometimes we feel the tension between the possible fates. In my last video, I said they were closer to him than ever before, and I stand by that, obviously, because then he was seen by a hiker a little after I posted it. And as you can tell in my videos, I was very confused on if he had taken his life because the energy felt paused but not gone, or the energy had stopped. I kept going back and forth. I thought about this a lot. Again, it felt like he was deceased, and then suddenly it felt like he wasn't. But that's why I seem so like back and forth in my videos, because I wasn't sure. And I don't like to say things unless I'm sure. And then now I understand it. I was reading both the outcome and the present. His soul was already starting to let go, even if his body hadn't caught up yet. When someone's injured, sick, or near the end, the energy can already feel like it's fading. And that's what I was clashing with, the spiritual truth versus the physical moment. That's why I cross-checked so much, because death energy was there, just not fully manifested yet. But the gunshots echoed. I was yanked out of bed, and that was Spirit letting me know the karmic loop was closing. That's why I posted yesterday. And again, hard to decipher past from present, but the energy was catching up, hearing the gunshots echoing. Not sure if it was one or in a loop or many. That's what was confusing. But it wouldn't stop till I got up. Looking at it now, it could definitely be some of the last standoff. And I'm picking it up early because literally I was pulled out of bed and then later the hiker saw him. Okay, I did say a hiker would run across him. I know what it felt and then what happened. Sometimes this is what I talk about when we misperceive. And looking at it now, it could be some of that last standoff energy that I was picking up before. But I kept saying I was unsure because of his narcissism. Narcissistic personalities often generate false signals of control. Even out in their final days, it creates a spiritual static. Like, they might run, they might hide, they might fight, but it's ego over bluff. All ego bluff over crumbling their will. So this is why I felt the lingering last stand energy and the stuckness. Torn between self-preservation and self-destruction, Spirit was showing me both sides of that collapsing mask. This work is layered. It's real time and it's spiritually led. I don't jump to conclusions. I follow the energy until it resolves. And that's why I didn't say anything was final. My sensitivity picked up every flip, delay, rationalization that he cycled through as he sat in the shadow of his judgment. Didn't call it out right at first because I still see his ego. I still was picking up on his ego, his narcissistic tendencies. And that's why I kept saying, well, I don't know, because he's a narcissist. The narcissism made it feel like he thought he still had control. And that kind of energy can confuse things because it doesn't want to surrender. But even while I was feeling all of that, I was also seeing the signs of an ending. The energy started collapsing in on itself, and that's how it feels when death is circling. You don't always see the act itself, but you feel the soul starting to detach. I tried to be careful in my words, but looking back, I think Spirit was already closing the door. The confrontation was coming, and it's just a matter of how. So I've talked about something called prophetic sequencing before, a gift that I have where I receive moments before they happen. Sometimes it's layered over each other like a spiritual timeline with no clear beginning or end. That's why sometimes I get pieces that seem very confusing until the moment actually arrives. Video is in my YouTube if you want to understand more about that. I've put it together for this reason right here. And for anybody jumping to conclusions about what I said, I encourage you to actually listen to the words, not just assume. I never claimed the final outcome. I described the options, the energy, and the truth of the moment. And again, I feel like there's two options here, and that's why I'm getting this. I heard clearly the suicide by cop, and now I'm thinking, oh, he was just sitting up on the ridge, and I'm seeing this repeated pattern of, like, through his eyes multiple times. That could be what it was. Every time I would check in, that's what I would see. Maybe he was waiting for cops to catch up to him. His ego thinking he can do it, take it out. He doesn't have the courage to do it himself, so he's going to do it that way. Unless, this is where free will comes into play that a lot of people don't understand. There's karmic outcomes, but there's also free will involved. So he has the free will to make the last stand or to do it himself because maybe he's in too much pain. Maybe he doesn't have the energy to do so. So that is why I'm picking up two separate things, but still the energy is the same. And the markers and the astrology, according to my limited knowledge, also claim that the death window is there. And that was another reason I was confused, because it's literally in the astrology chart that this is going to end this way. And that's why I couldn't tell. Has it already happened? Is it going to happen? Because again, it's not linear. I'm picking up both things colliding in the energy. And then yesterday when I heard the gunshots and I got out of bed and I'm just like, oh my gosh, I have to make a video because Spirit will not stop until I do that. When I have a repeating loop like that, it's for a reason. So if this is him and they're catching up to him, there will be a last stand moment, or he will do it himself. There's two options here. And one is not clear over the other because it's still cycling in his brain and it's still a free will choice. And that's what I need people to understand. However, I strongly feel the suicide by cop is stronger because I heard it in my brain. So it was stronger than him doing it himself because of his narcissistic tendencies, and something I kept saying, like, I don't think he did because of his narcissistic tendencies. That's me, like, logically thinking no. And dealing with the energy of half gone or a soul deciding. It can feel different. It's not always loud. A soul's energy isn't always loud. It's not always present. It's not always, if the energy stopped moving, it's because he stopped moving for whatever reason that may be, and that's hard to pick up. So I wanted to break this down, explain it, and put my final prediction out there because I like to timestamp my work. It's not about validating me, it's about validating Spirit. And they have walked me through this for the past week with headaches coming and going, spiritual depletion. I don't think people understand the trauma that I feel in my body and the things that I feel in my body. Being trapped in his energy, even though I've tried to get out, I keep getting pulled back in. It's tough. And again, things are not always clear, not always linear. And when I say things, again, I can always misperceive. So the hiker, still legit, just didn't fully understand it at the time because of the way it came across or came in, which was maybe the way spirit wanted to show me, or it was the only way that they could tell me. So we'll see how this plays out. Let's not jump to any conclusions. I'm just letting you know what the energy feels like, what I've gotten since the beginning. And again, psychics are early. That's why we're called psychics. It doesn't mean that it's playing in real time, which is sometimes hard to tell the difference between the future and the present. Like, what are we picking up in the future and what is going on right now? That makes it really hard. So again, we're human. We're not God. We don't know everything. We're not a machine. But this is how it works. So I hope that I've explained everything and I've made it clear about where I stand, how spirit has been correct the whole time. And if they're correct about the distance and direction, which in the very first thing I sent to law enforcement, I told them there is a chance of a standoff. In that first information I sent them, I told them 8 to 10 miles southeast. I mentioned the river creek, didn't know which it was at the time. Just sometimes it's hard to say because sometimes a river looks like a creek looks like a river, depending on how big they are. And that's what I told them. There is a possibility of a standoff, a last stand. So be prepared. So that was what I sent in the very first because I heard it. So again, my headache's coming back. Every time I talk about this, every time I tap in, the headache is there. Whether that's him feeling his collapse or the end result, I don't know. But the gunshots that I heard yesterday echoing in a canyon, spirit pushing me, and today feels energetically charged. So yesterday I kept thinking about the 11th. Like I said, they're energetically closing in. That's how it feels. And I said that yesterday before I knew that he was even seen, allegedly, if that's him. I know they think it's him, but I always say, just wait. We have to watch it play out and see how my visions play out. So many times people come to me and tell me, it's not this way, it's that way. It's not this way, it's that way. Oh, this isn't right. And they jump the gun and they question spirit. And usually spirit's right. Usually it means something that maybe they didn't think it meant. Usually you have to wait for the outcome. So that's what I'm trying to do, as well as document it as we go, because it's important to document this, obviously, or spirit wouldn't have led me into it. So thank you so much for being here, following, liking, or subscribing.